Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Barack Obama finally came out of hiding this week so he could try to boost Kamala Harris at the DNC convention. Rather than being the big game changer that it was prompted as, it came off as just a bunch of leftover political talking points from Obama's glory days. It changed absolutely nothing. People didn't take extra notice of it just because Mr. Smooth Political Operator was slamming his gums. Unless you were at the convention, you didn't care. And the people at the convention, they're not the ones who will make the difference as to who wins or not in November. Now, considering that Kamala only got the nomination last minute, and she's been in hiding ever since Biden dropped out, you would think that the top priority for these guys would be to say what she stands for, to use every second they could to tell America what Kamala Harris's political platform is. And yet, nobody has been talking about Kamala's policies or programs, mainly because she has none. And she didn't have any when she ran for president in 2020 either. Well, at least she stayed consistent. Now, Barack Obama's appearance at the convention did show us two things. First of all, it showed that people were far more excited about a former president whose failure was so profound that he laid the groundwork for the orange man to become president. And the second thing that it showed was he doesn't have any new tricks. Who is he trying to convince? Who does he think is going to change their minds because he gives a speech? The guy who spent years telling lies about Obama's birth certificate went from being a putrid joke to being Obama's immediate successor. And why was that? It was Obama's fault. Obama thought that he could use his charisma and bogus charm to sweet-talk Hillary into the White House. He thought everybody loved his stinking drawers. He said that he would consider it a personal insult if Black America didn't make Hillary president because, as he put it, Black people had an obligation to secure his legacy. Well, as it turned out, Black voters didn't feel obligated to do anything for him. So now he's back, because there's a rump contingent of white media and Democrat leaders who are still not clued into how little Barack Obama matters when it comes to winning elections. He's no kingmaker. Just ask Hillary Clinton. And here he was out there basically talking all the same stupid, worn-out talking points that he had used for his own campaign and recycling them for Kamala Harris. Michelle Obama, by the way, also spoke at the DNC, and she just repeated a variation on her "when they go low, we go high" line. So Barack and Michelle are back out there, and I'm not going to say that they were necessarily phoning it in, but I will say that they weren't giving it the old college try, that's for sure. The same way that they had no new ideas when they were in the White House, they also have no new material for their speeches either. It's pathetically fitting, though. Barack Obama's big debut was at a Democratic convention. I remember how in 2004, the Frankenstein tribute act John Kerry was running for president, or more like shuffling for the White House, and then young Barack Obama was running for the Senate. And he gave the keynote address because the fix was already in that this guy was going to be the perfect stalking horse for the White House one day. Obama was using the DNC 2004 convention as a platform for his own presidential aspirations. And it worked. Overnight, he went from being an anonymous political wannabe with a funny name to a presidential contender. They gave him the mic and he made the most of it, talking and acting as if he was the party's nominee, because obviously that's what he wanted them to see him as, and it worked. And it was also at the 2004 DNC convention that Obama showed the world that he would rise to power by lying through his teeth and denying that racism exists in America. It was at the 2004 Democratic National Convention that Barack Obama spouted one of the most infamous lines in the history of American political rhetoric.
There is not a Black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America.
The damned insult. There is not a Black America and a white America. There's the United States of America. Now, over here in the B1, we know there's a Black America. We represent it every single day. His speech was meant for the consumption of a white audience, white voters. If there's one thing the Barack Obamas and the congressional black talkers know, it's that the fastest way to get white liberal or white centrist support is to be the black fool who stands in front of a camera and does the colorblind, there's only one America line of crap. White society loves to hear that lie, even when they know you don't mean a word of it, so it's easy points for the aspiring black politician to score. And you see it not just from black Republicans, but also from black Democrats like Obama, because the white party bosses and white voters that they're trying to get the support of expect them to say that kind of stuff. Assure them that you're not going to rock the boat on race. Doesn't matter who the hell it is, Karen Bass, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, they all do the exact same thing. And those lying words that he spoke set the frame for the 8 disgraceful years he spent as president, ignoring the attacks and violence committed against black Americans. His pathetic, craven behavior put a bullseye on the back of every black person in America. Even his own friends weren't safe, like Henry's Skip-the-Gates Truth. He got himself arrested in his own home, even though he's crippled. That white cop didn't care, arrested him in his own home for no reason, and dragged him out even though this man is lame. It showed that even the president's own black friends, the so-called talented 10th, weren't safe from the thugs with badges. And rather than start punishing the police, Obama invited the reprobate flatfoot in question to the White House for what they called a beer summit. Now that was the time for him to begin an all-out war on the police's violence against black people and to crack down hard as hell on them. Instead, Obama treated this violent assault on his friend as nothing more than a PR problem, portraying it as just a little misunderstanding. Oh, look how understanding we are. His goal was to stay in office for 8 years, and then put the capstone on his do-nothing administration by successfully handing the keys to the White House over to another Democrat. That was the plan, because not since Reagan-Bush back in the 1980s has there been a single party who's held the White House for more than 8 years. Obama's sole focus was on being able to say that he was the first biracial president and that he led the Democrats to hold the White House for at least 12 years. Instead, he was handed a humiliating defeat by the very black America whose existence he began his political career by denying. And something else that made Obama's 2004 DNC speech so damnable was that it was John Kerry's running mate, John Edwards, talking about two Americas, specifically about the two Americas of race. So you had the white good old boy who was running for the vice presidency telling the truth about race in America, and he lost the election. Meanwhile, the biracial guy was at the same time denying the reality of race in America, and 4 years later, he was handed the presidency. America's cardinal sin is hypocrisy. This is a nation of lies and liars. Black empowerment is our attempt to fight back against this culture. But Barack Obama made it manifestly clear whose side he stands on, and it's not ours. The big difference between Obama and Kamala is that he has some charisma, and he at least has a superficial understanding of policy. The problem for us, though, is that Obama used this knowledge and this charisma to appeal to anti-black racists and to carefully avoid any policies that would have benefited us. And the result is that he's been reduced to doing a corny comedy routine now, talking about how nice it is that America's a place where people with funny names can become president. You know, when he says something like that, it reminds me of what James Baldwin said in the 60s when he talked about the Kennedy family. He said you got some Irish immigrants who just got off the boat yesterday, and here they are telling foundational black Americans that if we're really good, maybe one day one of us can become president. Someday. So while Obama's going through his old routine from 2004 and trying to make it feel fresh to people and trying to have people feel good about his smiling, wretched self, let's remember that when you look at this man, you're seeing someone who began his rise to the top by telling the world that America is all one big happy dysfunctional family and that there's no black America. His moral cowardice in the face of white supremacist aggression is the reason why all these thugs with badges, and a number of them without badges, felt emboldened to kill black people openly in the streets and to attack black people wherever they wanted to, even Obama's old friends. Because he let them know that he wasn't going to do anything about it. They correctly interpreted that he would sit on his hands. In fact, they knew that this guy actually wanted their political support, and that their political support was more important to him than black people's lives. It was obvious to everyone that Obama would do anything to avoid losing white voter support, especially those all-important centrists, because he clearly had two objectives: win a second term and successfully get a Democrat elected right after him. And by not taking on the police, he showed that he was fully willing to make history for himself over black people's dead bodies. Literally. This is the reason why he found it so easy to sit on his hands while black people, including black children like Trayvon Martin and others, were murdered on his watch. It was how he could do nothing while the genocidal mass poisoning of Flint, Michigan took place, all on his watch. Black people being slaughtered like Mother Emanuel Church, and here he is coming to town to sing a couple of bars of Al Green. So for any of you out there wondering what's the fastest route to getting either of the major parties to make you their presidential nominee, Obama and Kamala have shown you exactly what the Democrats and Republicans consider to be the most important qualifications. Attack black people, promise to do nothing for black people, and run interference for anyone who attacks black people. Kamala Harris has yet to give her speech and quote-unquote accept the nomination, which she's already got. But whenever she does come crawling out of her hole to give her teleprompter speech, the white left media will go into predictable phony orgasms and claim that she gave a speech better than the Gettysburg Address, etc. They'll also claim that she got a post-convention bump in the polls, though considering how they've been clamoring and praising her and claiming that she's been rising and rising through the polls so much, and yet she still hasn't surpassed Trump yet, I think that they'll have to explain why her post-convention bump still hasn't resulted in her passing Trump yet. Presidential races are good for the white media's ratings. They're good for these white media companies' business because everybody pays attention. And that being the case, it's in their business interest to try to portray every presidential election as being a nail-biter, as being a horse race, even if they have good reason to believe that it's anything but. So that's the reason why no matter what, they're going to be saying that Kamala Harris is neck and neck with Trump because that's what's good for their business model. And as for Obama, they'll also need to explain why this guy isn't a kingmaker, and that being the case, why the heck is he even at the DNC convention? He's preaching to the choir. As James Carville, the Cajun Skeletor, and other Democrat operatives have been forced to admit, the Democrats' black support has been sliding for the last 10 years now, since at least 2013. That was during Obama's second term. As soon as black folks, at least enough of us, began to realize that this empty suit wasn't going to actually do anything for black people, no matter how the shills and bootlicks and the people in denial were claiming, oh, just give him some more time, he'll do, just give him some more time, it became obvious, no, time's up. We gave him all the time in the world. He's not going to do anything for us. As black people slowly started to accept that fact, they looked and said, you know what, to hell with the process altogether, and threw up their hands. That's when the Democrats' hemorrhaging of black support began. In 2013, with Obama's second term. The people who might have voted Democrat were turned off to the party specifically by Barack Obama. And now here he is once again saying that we should be only too glad to vote for a candidate that he's recommended because this candidate is just like him. Yeah, we already know that. And that's exactly the reason why we're going to do what we did the last time Obama told us to vote for someone. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Gwendolyn Langston, Matthew Liggins, Jimmy Whitfield, Tom Anderson, and Yafet Jones. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.